My sister gave a speech at my wedding, grinning from ear to ear. She's a monster who had 3 plastic surgeries. Look at her hard work. The screen showed my before and after photos. The room erupted in uneasy laughter, then fell silent. My groom stood up slowly. Don't you dare. Everyone held their breath. The winter morning in Boston begins with crystal clear air and soft sunlight. Emily Carter gazed at the snow-covered common from the bay window of her home. This Beacon Hill neighborhood was where she was, born and raised. And now it was where she was about to begin a new chapter in her life. I really have returned, Emily whispered to herself. After finding success as an interior designer in New York, the decision to return to her hometown hadn't been easy. However, meeting James Bennett had changed everything. Her relationship with the Harvard University architecture professor had brought unexpected happiness to Emily's life, and now they were busy preparing for their wedding, just 2 months away. The phone rang, pulling Emily from her thoughts. Hey, Emily, how are the preparations for tonight's engagement party coming along? Her mother Margaret's voice carried its usual understated concern. For Margaret, who lived in Boston's high society, her daughter's wedding was also an important social event. I'm fine, Mom. Everything's going smoothly. Emily hesitated for a moment. Have you heard back from Sophia? On the other end of the phone, she could hear her mother's breath catch. Yes, she called yesterday. She said she's coming. She's coming home after all this time. Emily felt a faint anxiety in her heart. Her sister Sophia had always attracted attention with her natural beauty and brightness since childhood. Growing up with her parents' undivided love and affection, unlike Emily, Sophia had chosen a contrasting personality and lifestyle, and they had grown increasingly distant recently. I see. That's good, Emily replied, choosing her words carefully. In truth, Sophia's attendance stirred up complicated emotions, the sibling rivalry from childhood. Emily had always worked diligently, putting her own growth first. In contrast, Sophia had paved her way with her natural charm. Her parents, too, had always shown special affection for this brilliant sister. Having finished her preparations, Emily headed to the Beacon Hill restaurant that would host the engagement party. James had already arrived and greeted her with a warm smile as soon as he saw her. You look beautiful today. James lightly kissed her hand, nervous a little. It's been a while since the whole family gathered together. As Emily answered, James gently squeezed her hand. It'll be fine. I'm here with you. The party began as planned. Relatives and friends of the Carter and Bennett families had gathered, and the venue was filled with a warm atmosphere. Emily's father, Henry, proposed a toast and offered words of blessing. Just then, the restaurant door opened, and a woman entered. The venue fell silent for a moment. Sophia appeared with the confidence of a movie star, her gleaming blonde hair and dress forming a perfect silhouette. Her mere presence seemed to change the air in the room. Sorry I'm late. Sophia's voice resonated pleasantly throughout the venue. After greeting her parents, she approached Emily and kissed her on the cheek. Congratulations. You found a wonderful fiancé. Her words carried congratulations, but to Emily, they sounded faintly sarcastic. Thank you, Sophia. I'm glad you could come. Emily's response was polite, but the subtle tension flowing between the sisters was undeniable. As the party progressed, Sophia quickly became the center of attention. There was always a crowd around her, and her laughter could be heard throughout the venue. What particularly bothered Emily was the familiarity Sophia showed toward James, touching his arm, whispering something in his ear, and sometimes laughing exaggeratedly together. Watching from a distance, Emily struggled with the emotions welling up inside her. This is a special day. Don't let it bother you, she told herself. Toward the end of the party, Sophia suddenly offered to give a speech. With all eyes on her, she raised her glass high. I'd like to say a few words about my sister, Emily. Sophia's voice mixed sweetness with sharpness. Emily is such a hard worker. She puts her all into everything, doesn't she? She looked at Emily with a meaningful smile. There seemed to be some unspoken message in her eyes. I wish you all the happiness from the bottom of my heart. Congratulations. The room filled with applause. But anxiety remained in Emily's heart, something lurking behind Sophia's words. But now wasn't the time to think about that. She took James's hand and smiled. No more strawberry accents, please. I want to keep it simple. Emily was giving instructions to the cake designer when she heard her phone ring. With just 2 weeks until the wedding, she was busy with final preparations. Rachel, what's up? I'm a bit busy right now, On the other end of the phone, the voice of Emily's best friend, Rachel Evans, was tense. "Emily, can you talk now? It's important." After gesturing to the cake designer to wait, Emily stepped outside the patisserie. The streets of Boston, where the snow had begun to melt, still had a chilly spring breeze blowing. "What happened? It's about Sophia." Rachel's voice was low and restrained. "She seems to be plotting something." Maria overheard Sophia talking with her friends. A cold feeling spread in Emily's chest. "What about?" "I don't know the details, but apparently they were talking about your past. She's telling her friends that you had plastic surgery." Emily was at a loss for words. Her left cheek twitched involuntarily. Without looking in a mirror, she knew about that thin scar and that there had once been a larger scar there. "Emily, are you okay?" "Yes, I'm fine." She steadied her breath. "Rachel, thank you, but I won't let it bother me. This is my day. Whatever Sophia says, it won't affect me." After hanging up, Emily stood there for a while. Memories from 9 years ago flooded her mind. Shortly after graduating from college, she had left Boston. Friends and family thought she had gone to Los Angeles for a job change, but in reality, Emily turned around. She saw James standing in front of the shop. His presence alone calmed her heart. "James, you came. I promised, didn't I?" He placed his hand on her shoulder. "Did something happen? You look pale." Emily looked at him. James knew everything, her past, the truth about her scars. She had kept nothing from him since they first met, and James had accepted her without judging her once. "I got a call from Rachel. It's about Sophia." "What about her?" James's voice mixed with weariness. "She seems to be talking about my surgery to her friends." James's face hardened. "You have nothing to worry about. Only we need to know the truth." "But what if, at the wedding, if anything happens?" "I'll handle it." He squeezed her hand. "I'll protect you. I promise." That evening, Emily visited her parents' home. In the living room, her father, Henry, was reading a newspaper, and her mother, Margaret, was doing embroidery, the quiet daily life of a couple who had been together for nearly 50 years. "Emily, you're here." Margaret rose as soon as she saw her daughter. "I'll make some tea." "Where's Sophia?" Emily looked around. "She came back yesterday, but she went out with friends today." Margaret read Emily's expression and continued. "You two still haven't reconciled." Emily breathed deeply. "We're not exactly fighting, just, I understand." Margaret placed her hand over her daughter's. "Sophia always wants to be the center of attention. For her, you getting married is, are you saying she's jealous?" "Not exactly." Margaret chose her words. "Unlike you, she's always been concerned with how others see her. She's anxious if she's not the best, so she's trying to bring up my past." Emily's voice sounded more bitter than she had expected. "What did you say?" The color drained from Margaret's face. Emily told her mother what she had heard from Rachel. Margaret's expression hardened as she listened. "That's unforgivable." Margaret's fingers were trembling. "What you went through. And for her too, Mom. It's okay." Emily tried to calm her mother. "I'm happy now. James knows everything and accepts me. I don't care what Sophia says. But don't worry, the wedding will be wonderful," Emily said, as if reassuring herself. After leaving her parents' home, Emily adjusted the rearview mirror while driving to look at her face. The scar on her left cheek was barely noticeable, but without the makeup covering it, it would be more apparent. Beneath it lay a deep scar that once covered most of her face. 9 years ago, she wasn't in Los Angeles. Having suffered severe burns, she was receiving treatment at a specialized hospital in Phoenix, far from Boston. After 3 reconstructive surgeries, she gradually got used to her new face. Her choice wasn't for cosmetic purposes. It was a necessary choice to live, to fight the pain. She hadn't confided everything in Sophia. Not just because the sisters had grown apart. Sophia had always been valued for her beauty and took pride in it. Emily didn't know how her sister would handle that fact, and now that fear was becoming a reality. Upon returning to her apartment, Emily headed to the bedroom closet. At the very back was a box she hadn't opened for years. Hesitantly, she took it out and spread its contents: photos from before the accident, records of rehabilitation at the hospital, and photos of her face immediately after the accident. Skin and tissue damaged beyond recognition. "It's been a long journey," she whispered to the photos. A call from James brought her back to reality. I'll come with you for the final fitting tomorrow. His voice gave her reassurance. Thank you, James. The first so glad you're here. After hanging up, Emily put the photos back in the box and stored it at the back of the closet. The past was the past. She was about to begin a new life. If anything happens, signal me right away. Rachel whispered as she adjusted the hem of Emily's wedding dress. The wedding had proceeded more smoothly than expected, and Emily's worries were gradually fading. The ceremony at St. Paul's Church had been conducted solemnly, and now the reception was about to begin in the ballroom of a luxury hotel. I'm fine. Emily smiled at her friend. I'm truly happy today. Those words weren't a lie. Standing next to James, making vows to share life with him, Emily's heart was filled with peace. Her parents' tears of emotion, the warm blessings of friends, and, above all, James's loving gaze, they were enough to dispel her anxieties. At the entrance to the reception hall, Emily and James were introduced as bride and groom. Amidst the applause, they proceeded to the head table. Emily's gaze naturally searched for Sophia. Her sister was wearing a flashy emerald green dress, sitting with a young man. When their eyes met, Sophia smiled and waved lightly. Nothing could be read from her expression. She seems to be behaving herself, Emily whispered to James. James squeezed her hand. Today is our day. There's nothing to worry about. The reception proceeded smoothly as the finest dinner was served and a jazz band played pleasant music. Emily and James went around to each table, greeting the guests. As they approached Sophia's table, Emily tensed. Big sister, congratulations. Sophia stood up and embraced Emily. You look absolutely beautiful today. Her words sounded genuine. For a brief moment, Emily was ashamed of her doubts. Perhaps it had all been unfounded worry. Thank you, Sophia. Oh, by the way, Sophia's eyes sparkled. Would it be all right if I give a speech later? I'd like to offer my own words of blessing to the two of you. Emily hesitated for a moment, but there was no reason to refuse. Of course, gladly. James frowned slightly but said nothing. Nearing the end of dinner, the MC took the microphone. Now we'd like to hear a few words from the bride's sister, Sophia Carter. The venue grew quiet, and all eyes turned to Sophia. She slowly stood up and took the microphone. In a moment of tension, Emily gripped James's hand tightly. Good evening, everyone. Sophia's voice was clear. Today is the most special day for my sister Emily and her wonderful husband, James. I'm honored to stand here. She took a wine glass in hand and looked toward Emily and James. Her smile was bright and friendly. Let me tell you a bit about my sister Emily. Since childhood, she's been such a hard worker, a strong person who never gives up on anything. Emily was about to breathe a sigh of relief. However, her blood froze at Sophia's next words, especially when it comes to changing herself. She was really enthusiastic. Sophia's tone subtly changed. There's something I want everyone to know about her. Sophia suddenly picked up a tablet that had been placed on the table. Actually, my sister isn't the person you all think she is. She gestured toward the screen and operated the tablet. She's a monster who had plastic surgery 3 times. Look at the results of her efforts. What was projected onto the giant screen was the face of a young Emily, filled with pain, disfigured skin from burns, medical bandages, and next to it, the beautiful face of the current Emily. The venue was briefly filled with awkward laughter before falling completely silent. Emily sat frozen. The blood drained from her face, and her hands began to tremble. The scar on her cheek felt hot and seemed to pulse. She had feared this moment would come, but when it actually happened, it was more painful than she had imagined. James's face was flushed with anger. He slowly stood up and glared at Sophia. As everyone in the venue watched with bated breath, he said in a quiet but dignified voice, "How dare you?" James's voice was low, but it resonated throughout the venue. He walked toward Sophia and stopped a few feet away from her. "Do you understand what you've just done?" Sophia faltered for a moment but quickly regained a challenging smile. "I just told the truth. Everyone has the right to know she is." Silence. James's word cut off Sophia mid-sentence. His voice was tinged with anger, but it also contained sadness. "Your actions are unforgivable." James returned to Emily's side and sat down next to her. He gently took her hand and whispered in her ear, "I need your permission. May I tell the truth?" Emily answered with trembling lips. "Please." James stood up again, this time taking the microphone. He looked around the room and took a deep breath. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a special celebration tonight, and I find myself needing to share the truth with you all. His voice was calm, but there was unwavering determination in his eyes. It's true that Emily underwent surgery, but not for the reasons Sophia has suggested. James looked at Emily tenderly. The scars on my wife's face are proof of her courage and love. The venue was completely silent. The smile had vanished from Sophia's face, replaced by an expression mixing confusion and anxiety. 9 years ago, Emily was involved in a traffic accident. Her car caught fire, and she suffered severe burns trying to rescue other victims before herself. James's voice trembled slightly. The surgeries she received were not for cosmetic purposes. They were medically necessary reconstructive surgeries to restore function and reduce pain. Sounds of shock and sympathy escaped from the audience. At the parents' table, Margaret was in tears, and Henry was embracing her. The scars she bears are not the result of plastic surgery, as Sophia claims, but the result of her courage in risking her life to save others. James looked at Sophia. What you've mocked is the trace of your sister's courage and life-risking action. Sophia's face turned bright red, and she stood stunned, as if at a loss for words. Fear and regret showed in her eyes. I fell in love with Emily's courage and strength, and above all, her beautiful heart. James looked at Emily again. And today, I've become the happiest man in the world. Emily slowly stood up, though tears welled in her eyes. Her posture was dignified. She took the microphone with trembling hands. I'm not ashamed of my face or my past. Her voice was small at first, but gradually grew stronger. I just didn't want to bring up the past on this special day. She looked at Sophia for a moment. Tears were welling in her sister's eyes too. But as James says, this is part of me, and I want you all to know the truth. Emily took James's hand. My scars will never disappear, but they are my pride. And today I am truly happy to begin a new life with this wonderful person. Warm applause erupted from the venue. In the guests, there was no mockery but emotion and respect. Sophia stood rooted to the spot, unable to say anything. Her plan had completely backfired. The secret she had intended to expose had instead proven the strength and beauty of Emily and James's bond. James embraced Emily and gently kissed her cheek. You're the most beautiful bride, he whispered, and your strength never ceases to amaze me. Emily smiled. There was no longer fear in her eyes. Instead, hope and joy for her new life shone bright. Sophia was quietly leaving her seat, about to exit the venue. However, before she reached the door, Emily's voice stopped her. Sophia, the sisters' gazes crossed. At that moment, something unspoken flowed between them, sadness, regret, and a faint hope. There was understanding rather than anger in Emily's eyes. Standing on the hotel balcony, Emily looked down at the lights of nighttime Boston. Heart was a little distant. So this is where you were, turning at James's voice. She saw him standing with 2 champagne glasses. I needed some air, Emily answered as she took the glass. Is everyone okay? They're worried about you, but everyone seems to hold you in high regard. He stood next to Emily, gazing at the city lights. What about Sophia? Mom is talking with her in a hotel room. Emily's voice was tinged with fatigue. I thought today would be ruined, but not at all. James touched her cheek. Rather, your courage moved everyone. Everyone here today witnessed your courage and strength. Emily smiled. It's all thanks to you. No, I just told the truth. You never needed to hide it. Silence enveloped them. A distant church steeple gleamed as if floating in the night sky. James, I'm glad I met you, Emily said suddenly. If I hadn't been in that accident, I wouldn't have gone to Los Angeles, and then I wouldn't have met you. James squeezed her hand. That's the way fate works. A knock made them turn around. Sophia stood on the other side of the door. Her eyes were swollen from crying, and in contrast to her glamorous dress, she looked dejected. May I talk to you? Her voice trembled. Emily and James exchanged glances. He nodded slightly and was about to leave to give them space to talk alone. No, James, you stay too, Sophia quickly said. I want to apologize to you as well. The 3 sat at a table on the balcony. Sophia covered her face with both hands, exhaled deeply, then looked up. I'm truly sorry. Genuine remorse showed in her eyes. What I did is unforgivable. Why did you do it? Emily asked quietly. Sophia stared at her hands. It was jealousy. Her voice was small. I always felt like you were better than me. You were good at studying, talented, and yet always humble, always grateful to those around you. She gave a bitter smile. Ironically, when you disappeared, I had to face myself without you for the first time. In our parents' eyes, I was no longer compared to you but evaluated as myself. So when I came back, Emily continued. Yes, when you came back, I was afraid of returning to your shadow, Sophia admitted honestly. And when I heard about the scars on your face, I thought I could use that. By hurting you, I could stand above you. But the truth is, I respected you. Sophia's voice shook. I wanted to be strong like you, but I didn't know how to become like you. James looked at Sophia with stern eyes, but at the same time, there was a hint of understanding in his expression. Jealousy blinds people, he said quietly, but acknowledging the truth here and now takes courage. I'm sorry for hurting you both. Sophia cried again. Especially you, Emily. What you experienced, I can't even imagine. And to use that as a weapon today, Emily was silent for a while. Various emotions swirled in her heart, anger, sadness, and a strange sense of liberation. After that accident, I had to change how I saw myself, Emily began quietly. Until then, I had taken my appearance for granted. But suddenly, when it was all taken away, I had to find strength within myself. She looked at Sophia. Ironically, that accident might have liberated me because it gave me the opportunity to find my true self beyond appearances. We were both hurting in different ways. Maybe so, Sophia murmured. Maybe so, Emily agreed. But don't think I can easily forgive what happened today. I need time, I understand. Sophia nodded. Just, if you give me a chance to make amends. After a long silence, Emily finally spoke. We might be able to start our relationship over, but it will take time, and above all, honesty. James placed his hand on Emily's shoulder. Today is a special day, a day of new beginnings. Perhaps it's the same for you sisters too. When the three returned to the hall, the party was still in full swing. Sophia quietly headed to her seat, and Emily and James proceeded to the dance floor. Are you okay? James asked, holding her. Yes. Emily smiled. Today took an unexpected turn, but maybe it was for the best. I don't need to hide anymore. You are truly beautiful, James whispered in her ear, both inside and out. She smiled and rested her head on his shoulder. The music enveloped them, and the lights in the venue shone around them. Having faced and overcome a painful past, Emily was now taking the first step in her new life here, and she knew that the road ahead would not always be smooth, that reconciliation with Sophia would not be achieved overnight. Still, she could continue to move forward because she was no longer alone. On a Saturday spring afternoon, a year after the wedding, the living room of Emily and James's Cambridge home was filled with afternoon sunlight. Through the large windows, a newly planted cherry tree could be seen in the backyard, with members of a support group gathered around it. Shall we begin, everyone? Emily stepped out into the garden and quietly called out. Beyond Scars, which she had founded, was a support group for people struggling with the after effects of burns and accidents. Once a month, she opened her home to provide a place for sharing experiences together. We have a special guest today. Emily smiled at the group. My sister, Sophia, from the corner of the garden. Sophia slowly stepped forward. Compared to a year ago, she was thinner, without flashy makeup, and appeared in simple attire. But what had changed most was her expression. The former arrogance and anxiety had disappeared, replaced by a quiet composure. Hello, Sophia said with a bit of nervousness. I am not someone who has experienced this, but I'd like to listen to your stories today. Some in the group looked at her with caution. Sophia's actions at the wedding were known among Emily's close friends. However, Emily gently placed her hand on her shoulder, reassuring her. Over the past year, the sisters' journey had not been smooth. Even though Emily sent letters many times, there was no reply from Sophia for a long time. Her parents worried about Sophia and told Emily that she had moved to Los Angeles. Then, 3 months ago, a sudden phone call came. They found a tumor on my face. Sophia's voice trembled even over the phone. It's benign, but I need surgery to remove it, and it might leave a scar on my face. It was an ironic twist of fate. Sophia, who had found value in her beauty throughout her life, was now facing the fear of her appearance changing for the first time, and she had sought help from the sister she had once mocked. As the support group meeting ended, and members were preparing to leave. Sophia approached Emily, listening to them. "I realized how shallow I've been," she said quietly. "I might understand a little of how you felt every day." Emily smiled. "We all grow in our own ways." James came out to the garden with drinks. "Sophia, are you ready for the surgery? It's next week." "Right." Sophia nodded. "I'm a bit scared. I wish I had my sister's courage. I'll be there for you," Emily promised. "It's hard at first, but with time, the scars become a part of you." In the garden, where twilight was approaching, the three sat quietly. The former conflicts hadn't completely disappeared, but a new understanding and respect had been born. "We're family." Emily took Sophia's hand. "From now on, let's heal each other's wounds." Cherry blossom petals danced in the wind, falling around the three like symbols of a new beginning. True beauty lies not in appearance but in compassion for others and the courage to grow through their respective pains. Emily and Sophia had arrived at this truth.